Hello and welcome to Moneylife News and Views. I'm Debashis Basu. As we all know, there is a raging trade war going on between United States and the rest of the world. And China is in the crosshairs of the US, and so are a lot of Southeast Asian countries, including Japan. Now, policymakers and pundits today in India have been very quick to declare that this US-China trade war is a golden opportunity for India. As supply chains start to break down and geopolitical tensions deepen, could India finally seize a slice of China's enormous export pie? On the surface, the logic is appealing. If tariffs and restrictions make Chinese goods less welcome in the American ports, surely the world's largest democracy with its low labor costs and burgeoning industrial base can fill the gap. But beneath the optimism lies a more sobering reality. To begin with, the scale of China's export machine is staggering. In 2024, it shipped $439 billion worth of goods directly to the US. Add indirect exports, those routed through Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, Mexico, and so on, and the figure climbs even higher. Replacing this massive volume of exports is no small feat. India and its peers simply do not have the industrial depth, logistical capability, or policy clarity to substitute Chinese supply at this scale. The second issue is timing. Trade between Washington and Beijing has collapsed, but the idea of a long, grinding standoff is unrealistic. Within weeks, many American store shelves would start to look empty. China-based sellers constitute more than half of Amazon's top-performing vendors. Should imports of electronics, toys, apparel, and household goods remain stalled, prices would rise sharply, fueling higher inflation expectations in a self-reinforcing cycle and ultimately shaking the confidence in US financial assets. Pressure for a resolution, any sort of resolution, will mount very quickly. Any surge in Indian exports, therefore, is likely to be short-lived. But some commentators think they have spotted a silver lining nevertheless. The US and China have been in a trade war for more than a decade. It's not just a Trump thing. So even if a deal is reached, it may merely codify higher tariffs on Chinese goods. That, some people argue, would leave Indian goods relatively more competitive, perhaps. But the issue is not whether the door is open, but whether India is capable of walking through it. India's manufacturing sector remains fragmented, largely low-tech, and ill-equipped to plug even a modest gap left by China. Its traditional exports, textiles, garments, and jewelry have not scaled with global demand. Only in pharmaceutical sector does India boast true heft that supplies nearly half of America's generic medicines. Here, additional gains are plausible, but elsewhere challenges are huge. One of the chief obstacles is quality. Indian products often struggle to meet international standards. Scaling up production is constrained by inadequate infrastructure, policy inconsistency, and a shortage of skilled labor. Exporters face a thicket of direct impediments. Regulatory compliance is onerous. According to HDFC Bank, Indian exporters must navigate a formidable list of one-time and recurring documentation. Transport infrastructure is no less daunting. Congested and inefficient ports, railways, seaports, and airports impose delays and increased costs, directly impacting exporters' ability to meet delivery terms. Exporters in landlocked states are hamstrung by a lack of connectivity to gateway ports. It takes 3 to 4 days to move a shipment from a warehouse in Delhi to a port, 3 times longer than any other country. This particularly affects agricultural produce because rural roads are even worse. The Indian Railways, one of the world's 5 largest, moves over 3 million tons of cargo across the country, yet the system is hobbled by aging equipment, lack of a modern signaling system, and an acute shortage of rakes, leading to higher costs and delays. So even as India eyes export gains, it's itself weak to China's exports. It is becoming even more and more dependent on exports, especially from China. In 2023-24, nearly 63% I'll say this again. Meanwhile, as India eyes export gains, it is becoming more dependent on imports, especially from China. In 23-24, nearly 23% of India's solar equipment imports came from its northern neighbor. China controls 97% of global polysilicon production and 80% of solar module output. Indian manufacturers of smartphones, laptops, and appliances are similarly reliant on Chinese components. More worryingly, it's some 70% of active pharmaceutical ingredients and key starter materials used in Indian drug manufacturing originate in China. A disruption in the supply chain would rattle India's healthcare system and undermine its export competitiveness. Chinese auto parts too remain essential to Indian assembly lines. Meanwhile, the metal sector is grappling with falling prices, declining exports, and rising imports, many of them Chinese. The risk of dumping looms large. Those expecting India to emerge as the next link in global supply chains may need to temper their hopes. Building global competitiveness requires patient, unglamorous hard work done diligently over a decade or more. That means investing in science and technical education, scaling up vocational training, easing conditions for doing business, lowering indirect taxes, fostering fierce competition, supporting budding export champions, and creating conditions for sustained foreign direct investment with meaningful technology transfer. These failings cannot be fixed by mere geopolitical changes. If India had done those hard things, we would have been competitive by now. We haven't, which is why Make in India initiative launched in 2014, which aimed to raise the manufacturing share in GDP to 25% by 2022 and boost exports, has been a terrible failure. Even if the US-China rivalry creates openings, India lacks the capability to exploit them. Unfortunately, the key question is not whether the world will offer India a chance. It is whether India's political and bureaucratic leadership would do the hard work needed to seize it. We can still do these hard things now, but the question to ask about any public policy wish list is this: who will do it? Which means where are the capable and accountable individuals, and why would they do it? Which is what incentives do they have? This calls for a completely different level of dedication and seriousness among our netas and babus, and above all, a sense of national urgency, as any student of East Asian economic miracles would know. This is how Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, and China have progressed, and India has done only virtually nothing compared to the dedication that we've seen in these countries of their leaders. I'm sorry to sound pessimistic, but this is a reality. If you like the video, please do share and do subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.